Thanks for joining us. We are here today chatting through some of the vision statements that we've come up with that really are a process or a fruit of a process that we've been going through for about a year and a half now, haven't we? Where we've been seeking the Lord together, discussing, looking at really who has God made us to be as a church. And some of these statements are very much for us as a church leadership team to implement, and others are for every one of us as believers and every one of us in the congregation. And I want to dive in this session and talk about this one. We live for others, not just ourselves, as demonstrated by Jesus. This is an interesting statement in today's climate, which feels, culturally, I would say culture seems to be getting a little bit more selfish and a little bit more self-obsessed in a lot of ways. That's not a kingdom way of thinking. So how is the kingdom of God different than today's culture in the way that Jesus asked us to live for other people?
I think, Ben, every culture is selfish. I think that that's part of the sinfulness of mankind, is that our first thought is always myself. Maybe my spouse, my family, but definitely everyone thinks about themselves first. And for Jesus to come and to model that he did not come for himself. He came from heaven to planet Earth, humbled himself. Philippians chapter 2 talks about this incredible humility that Jesus had on him, that he took the form of a human being. It's like Steve Long, with all of my intellect and, if I could say it, limited athletic skills, and I became an ant with a people's intellect and a people's skill sets. I become a super ant. In that sense, I could be. And that's what Jesus did. He came to live amongst us, and he modeled servanthood over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And even the night before he's going to be crucified, where he knows the ultimate sacrifice of serving is going to be taking place, he's at a dinner table and he's washing the disciples' feet. They're arguing who's the greatest. And he doesn't say anything. He just starts washing their feet, and they get the point. And I love that about Jesus. It's a counterculture thing, Ben, as you said, to live for other people. And if that's what Jesus did, that's the calling for me. That's the calling for each individual who's a part of Catch the Fires. How do we become servants? And so part of it is, as a church, we need to give opportunities for people to serve, to have a role, that they can do things for other people. So we try to make lots and lots of different things. And I think the last count we had was like 400 people have an identifiable role that they serve other people. Kids church, youth church, ushers, worship team, et cetera, et cetera. But it's definitely the heart of Jesus, is that we are in community to love others and to serve others.
And I think too, for me, what has been exciting is to watch, even in our past season that we've been through, watching the people that have come out of the woodwork and have been serving, just beautiful, loving people that have never done, well, they just didn't do a whole lot, but they just came. But now they're getting the cleaning supplies, and they're cleaning the washrooms and the handrails and making it possible. They're thinking about others. They're thinking about all those that can be in the church during this season. So that I love that. I do want to tell a story, because I think that it's so important for Stephen and I as leaders to model servanthood. And I remember years ago, Stephen and I had bought a house. We had the opportunity to buy a house, and I had bought a dining room light, and it was in the box. And you have to remember, we had gone through a really difficult time before that in our previous church, and I think we were so broken down that we were in the me kind of zone. And anyways, John and Carol Arnott with a couple other people came over, and John and he's so casual about it. He comes over to her house and he's looking at her home, and then he says, "Oh, what's that box on your table?" And I said, "Oh, well, it's our dining room light. We haven't put it up." And he literally said, "Well, do you mind if I do it?" And he did it. And that modeled, like from that point on, I thought, man, that is servanthood. Here's this man of God, which, I never thought would come to my home and literally put my dining room light up. And I thought, that's what we get to do. As people in this church, we get to do the little things, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and I'd love to see that, exactly what you're talking about, become like a contagious part of our culture as a church, that anyone who walks through the doors of our church or the doors of someone's home who's a part of our church, that they would encounter servants, that they would encounter people who are willing to lay down their life to serve people outside. I think that would be such an exciting concept.
I think the best place that happens is for people who are in connect groups.
Yeah.
Because they hear the opportunity. Someone's moving. Could people help me move house?
That's right.
And so like it's a group gathering, and you may have a little bit of a bad back or it's an inconvenient time, but when you give to other people, it's like the Lord rewards that. He pours back into you for everything that you do for other people, loving other people, being kind to other people, bringing food, sharing those kind of things. When ladies in our church have a baby and their friends are getting meals for 2 weeks together. That's all what we're talking about right here, Ben. It's loving people, serving people, not for anything about ourselves, but just to love people.
Yeah.